Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sparkle Twins. It's me, Mark, and today our topic is weathering and erosion. Let's get started. First, let's start with weathering. Well, Earth's landforms change constantly. Water, ice, temperature, chemicals, wind, living things all make small changes and big changes. Usually, these changes happen over a long period of time. Rocks in Earth's crust are broken into small baby little pieces in a process called weathering. There are two types of weathering that we should know: chemical weathering and physical weathering. Let's start with chemical weathering. During chemical weathering, chemicals cause rocks to change into different materials and break down. So let's take a little bit of an example. So, for example, it's raining. And then carbon dioxide gets mixed with the rain. The carbon dioxide gets mixed with the rain, and then what does it do? It forms weak acid. Then once the weak acid falls, the rocks crack, and when these rocks crack, this is the process called chemical weathering. I hope chemical weathering you understood it. Now let's start with physical. In physical weathering, rocks are broken into smaller pieces of the same type of rock. But in chemical, they are broken to the different type. But in physical, they're broken to the same type of rock. Water is one cause of physical weathering. Flowing water can carry particles of rock, soil, and sand. Okay, I'll show you right here. So waves carry particles of rock, soil, and sand. There's so many particles of rock, soil, and sand. And these particles scrape against these rocks. Means they get rubbed with the rocks. And then the rocks become smaller and smaller, as you can see what's happening over here. Okay, they're getting scraped and then the rock shrinks. Let's start with erosion. Now, rainfall affects all living things that are found in an area. Rainfall also shapes landforms. Wow! By washing away soil and carrying it to new places. Like water, wind, ice, gravity, all move bits of weathered rock. And the process of carrying away these bits is called erosion. Moving water carries away materials from land. As water moves faster and faster, it carries away heavier pieces of weathered rock. Moving water can slowly carve grooves into the land. Okay, because see, waves are just crazy everywhere. And then what they're saying is that they go near land, the waves gets near land, then what happens? The water carries sand in bits and carries it away in the direction the wave is moving. So then what happens? And when they are moving this rock, it's called erosion. And then it carries these waters away from land. And then it can also cut the land into a little piece. It carves small ones. And also, what happens to these slow ones? It becomes deep canyons, as you can see in this photo. These are the deep canyons. Now let's go to deposition. Why? You'll see. In Earth's surface, once new parts are broken down, obviously if this is broken down, a new part must be built. Okay? And the forces during erosion have to stop somewhere else, obviously. They can't just go flying in the ocean forever. So, once this laying down of the pieces of rock is called deposition. And then once the moving water, you can see over here, once it slows down, the larger pebbles go to the bottom and then next the smaller pebbles just sink into the ground wherever they want, and then the smallest bits of clay or silt get sinked also. Now, rivers also deposit large amounts of materials that flow into the ocean. For example, there's a river right here, and then there's a huge entire ocean on this side. So what happens is that the river carries huge pieces of rock, and then once the rock gets moved, it gets carried into the ocean. So the deposited material forms an area called delta. As you see over here, this is a delta. In deserts that are near beaches, wind moves grains of sand into mounds called sand dunes. Let's show you a picture of sand dunes. Well, this is a sand dune. They are like huge mountains made of sand. So the picture right on the side is a picture of a sand dune. They are humongous. Fact time! Well, did you know that chemical weathering can happen in warmer and drier areas than in cooler, cold areas? Okay, and that's the end of today's episode. Make sure you guys liked, subscribed. I hope you learned something new. Bye!